Our speaker today, Charles Gibbs, is Director of Community Initiatives for the City of Jacksonville out of the mayor's office. And he sent me one of these lovely 2-page, small type backgrounds that just make you look at it and think, and how have I wasted my life? He has had professional roles in areas as diverse as media and government relations, the Florida Department of Health to improve health outcomes, 100 Black men of Jacksonville for a cancer prevention initiative, and served in the city government on human rights, art in public places, housing, media relations, and that doesn't include his many volunteer activities with Take Stock in Children, the National Urban League, and the Jacksonville Free Press. It is, he ought to be 150 years old with that, but I'm so delighted to present him. Here is Charles Gibbs.
Good morning. I am particularly proud to be here this morning. First of all, I want to say, Jonathan Dobson, thank you very much for that enlightening and entertaining rendition of all the music. I can promise you I can be enlightening, but I won't be entertaining. It's a lot going on here this morning. I just want to take a moment to say how honored I am to be here. This place and this moment gives me a lot of pleasure because I have the opportunity to share with you just a few minutes about who I am and what my space involves in the community. And I know that it sounds like I've done a lot, but I just don't feel like I've done enough. There's a lot more work to be done, and I think as a community we can all get together and play our part. So first, I want to take this opportunity to thank my former boss, Bob Harmon. He was my colleague as well as my director and leader. I'm thankful that we spent so much time together serving at the county health department. Under Bob's leadership, it felt like we got a lot done. It was a time when public health was really driven through public health principles. And he kept that ship anchored in core public health principles, even though we had some waves of despair working against us. So he made it easier for us to respond to the needs of the community, and I appreciate that and allowing me to be a part of that with you. I'd like to also say that earlier in my career, I was a columnist. It's one of the many things for a weekly newspaper and a TV roundtable talking head. I spent most of my life doing that in the print media and on air, discussing current events and politics of the day. My job was to be informative, provocative, and sometimes controversial. I was buoyed by my independence, and I sometimes even bordered on reckless with my messaging. But things have changed. This moment requires a different temperament, a clearer voice for the work that I'm doing right now. But I'm grateful for this moment for fellowship. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak with you about the love I have for our community and the blessing known as the Jacksonville Journey Forward initiative that allows me to be able to continue to be rooted in intentionality of listening, engagement, and transformation. Peter, I know you're sitting out there as well. Peter opened the door for me when he was at the Jaguars to do some of the work that we had prescribed for men's health through prostate cancer initiatives. And I want you to know that because of that, we are now, that initiative has grown to a national initiative and not just a local initiative, Men Tackling the Big C. And we're saving lives, engaging men across the country with the support of other large sponsors. So if it wasn't for people like you and connections like I've been able to make in this community, we wouldn't be able to continue to do the work that we're trying to do right now. It's this type of work that Mayor Deegan has challenged me to do with helping her cultivate a more united, equitable, and thriving Jacksonville for all. In short, the work of Journey Forward is framed through a lens of prevention, intervention, and collaboration. I believe that if we intentionally elevate consciousness and engagement in these areas, we can improve the quality of life for those who live, work, and play in our community. And that's just the bottom line, improving the quality of life for our people here in our community. So let me take a moment to share how I came into this blessing for this platform and the energy of the conviction to lead through love. So you heard a little bit about me. I'm going to share a little bit more. Probably some things you didn't know. I'm a native of Jacksonville. I grew up on the north side in the Durkinville area. My bio, if you probably read the details early on, I'm the co-owner now of a company called the 8th and Whitner Group. There's a significance in that name because that's the corner where my grandmother's house stood over in the Durkinville area. My grandmother, the late Reverend Sarah E. Jones, was my rock. She was the pastor of our little church where service was held in our house, right there on the corner of 8th and Whitner, 3 blocks west of J.P. Small Park. From the mid-'60s throughout the '70s, our house doubled as a church sanctuary. I remember setting up chairs on Saturday nights while I was watching the Carol Burnett show for Sunday morning service. Also did the same on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights for Tuesday night prayer meeting and Wednesday night service. Our house was there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for anyone who wanted to come and go. My grandmother was a giving person, and that meant our house was community property. People from all walks of life used to come and go all the time, sometimes just to visit, leave food or other items for those in need, and sometimes they would come in need of prayer. Our house was a sanctuary of love. In that environment, there's literally no way of escaping growing up with the intentionality and purpose of engaging every person you meet with grace and mercy. It's my foundation. It's the way I live my life. It is all I know. What that means for me is that I feel like I'm built for this work and this job. And that is important because we are living in a climate where pursuing community greatness through a lens of love may not be a conventional approach, especially from a political perspective. Nevertheless, we have work to do. In 2006, the tragic death of 8-year-old Joshana Davis shook our city. She was killed in a drive-by shooting in her home while shielding her cousins from gunfire. This tragedy seemed to touch everyone in every corner of our city. Then Mayor John Payton, Sheriff John Rutherford, local clergy, and concerned citizens gathered on the street where the little girl lost her life. This time, thoughts and prayers just weren't going to be enough. If she had lived, Joshana would be 27 years old today. The fact that she had the heart to sacrifice herself for her cousins leaves me no doubt that today she would have been living out her full potential. Her death became the catalyst for the original Jacksonville journey. At the time, Jacksonville was labeled as the murder capital of Florida. The response was intense community reaction that triggered deep dives into what we could do to arrest this problem. The result, a 3-pronged approach: prevention, intervention, and enforcement. That initiative was originally funded through government dollars at $30 million in the first year. Over the first 4 years, Journey helped lower crime rates across the board. We saw a 38% reduction in murders, we saw a 35% drop in recidivism, and we saw a 32% decline in juvenile crime. Unfortunately, the original Jacksonville Journey ended under the previous administration. However, it was a priority of Mayor Deegan to bring it back. Journey Forward honors the history of the previous effort, but we also recognize that we need to adapt. Violence has new causes, and prevention must be smarter, earlier, and broader. Journey Forward today is a community-driven initiative designed to address the root causes of violence, strengthen neighborhoods, and improve the quality of life in Jacksonville. It's led by an 11-member board that includes public safety experts, educators, public health leaders, and community advocates working together with a multifaceted, multi-agency approach. 4 of these people are appointed by the mayor, 3 by city council. The school superintendent, the sheriff, state attorney, and chief judge each get 1 appointment. It's a diverse group. Journey Forward builds on the foundations of the original Jacksonville Journey, but brings modern, data-driven strategies to meet today's challenges. We are committed to creating lasting, positive change through community engagement, not just quick fixes. The Journey Forward means seeing people where they are, no matter who they are or where they are. When I was in the 7th grade, I was a student at James Will Johnson 7th Grade Center. It was maybe about 3 years after integration. I used to play baseball, and I thought I was a good baseball player, so I went out for the baseball team. But unfortunately, I got cut. I wasn't good enough, at least that was in the eyes of the coaches at the time, at least they thought. I was devastated as a little boy. A few days later, I was making my way home after school, and I was walking across the baseball field. It was well after hours, and a man playing catch with about 4 other kids yelled at me across the field. He said, "Hey, do you want to play baseball?" And I kind of looked at the guy, and I was like, "You talking to me?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm talking to you." That man, his name was Mr. Clarence Fields. He was a guidance counselor in the Duval County Public School System. And he said, "Come on over." So I ran over and started playing catch with the other kids. I didn't have a bat. I didn't have a glove. Little did I know that that was the beginning of my opportunity to play baseball in the newly organized Police Athletic League, and my first chance at organized sports. Mr. Fields used to pick us up and drive us to our baseball games in his yellow VW Beetle, sometimes 6 or 7 of us at a time. Don't ask me. I have no idea how we all fit in there. But we did. At the time, I had no idea that this man was volunteering his time. He was doing so to feed our appetite for sports and to keep us engaged. It was one of the greatest times of my life. I felt supported, acknowledged, and loved. Mr. Fields' presence and that baseball team were a natural extension of my family. It would later be my motivation to be a mentor to young men as well. So I can tell from my own experiences, I know that prevention engagement works. My mother and grandmother, the 2 Sarahs, gave me structure, faith, and the expectation that I needed, which was supported by people like Mr. Fields. That foundation kept me from making some of the choices that land people in more trouble than they can handle and lower their chances for reaching their full life's potential. That's why prevention is at the center of Journey Forward. We are investing and collaborating in family support for early literacy efforts, youth mentorship and out-of-school programs, job training so teens can see a paycheck before streets show them a shortcut, neighborhood safety improvements such as lighting, parks, and safe spaces. We're working the soil before the seeds are planted. But we all know that life doesn't give you good soil everywhere. Sometimes seeds fall among rocks and thorns. That's why we also need intervention. To be honest, in all my years as a mentor, coach, and father, I've never met a kid or a young man who didn't want for the love and attention of a caring adult. That day on my way home, that's what Mr. Fields meant to me. So when we talk about these things, this is my goal, to get the entire community pulling in the same direction in the name of grace and mercy. grace, and mercy. That's a term I like to abide by. Intervention is what we do when prevention came too late, or life hit someone harder than they could handle. Through the work of Journey Forward, intervention means activating the diversion programs that offer alternatives to incarceration for nonviolent offenders, mental health and trauma support, because the healing mind and heart is just as important as changing behavior, and job training and reentry services for people coming home from prison, so their past doesn't dictate their future. Basically, more caring adults through grace and mercy. So how do we get there? Intentionality means we don't simply react. We must act with purpose. With Journey Forward, intentional work takes shapes in 3 key practice areas: deeper listening and community design. We aren't presuming to know every answer. Instead, we plan to hold community-influenced dialogues, listening sessions in churches, community centers, schools, and other spaces of trust where ideas rise from hearts as much as from minds. An important part of this work will be engaging and listening to young people to empower them with the leverage of learning how their ideas can become policy. Because if they don't understand how the machine works, they can't effectively change it. Action built on overlapping visions. When residents share desires for safety and opportunity, Journey Forward can weave those into tangible plans. Safety audits, employer partnerships and apprenticeship programs, etc. Transparency, accountability, and feedback loops. We plan to establish dashboards tracking investments, host recurring advisory panels, and celebrate short-term milestones and long-term goals alike. When priorities shift, we will convene clarifying forums to revisit what's being said and what's being done. Engagement is the key to success of this work. We want everyone in every corner of the community to feel that they've had a hand in improving our quality of life. Now, wouldn't that be a great calling card for our city? Very much so. Now, Journey Forward is a big part of what I do, but it's not the only way that we engage the city. I have the pleasure, day in and day out, to work on efforts that range from neighborhood revitalization, health equity campaigns, and community conversations. I participate in exploring collaborations with local nonprofits to expand literacy programs. We connect with faith leaders to address economic policy. We partner with businesses to create internship opportunities for young people. Some days, I'm in a neighborhood meeting about park access and safety. Other days, I'm at a health fair, helping to connect men to free prostate cancer risk assessments. And there are days I'm simply sitting in a living room, listening to residents talk about what's really happening on their block. Why? Because the health of our city isn't measured only in its crime statistics. It's in whether people feel seen, heard, and valued. So where do we go from here? I'm not going to lie, the work is challenging. We've got forces pushing against us in trying to lead through love. It's very challenging. The mosaic of our community is vast, and it is informed by various norms, cultures, and environments. This makes motivating hearts and minds under one vision difficult, but in my mind, not impossible. This is where you come in. The city can run programs, school can teach skills, and police can enforce the law. But as caring individuals, you have something neither government, schools, nor law enforcement can create. You can create trust through grace and mercy. You can host and participate in listening sessions so neighborhoods feel heard. You can mentor young people to provide additional exposure to spaces outside of their environments. You can open your doors to after-school programs or partner with reentry efforts to give people a fresh start, and much, much more. Your relationships are the bridge between intention and impact. So you see, as an athlete and a competitor, I know that accepting challenges like this is just part of the game. And because I'm an old basketball player who still likes to compete on the basketball court, my competitive juices are still guided by my longtime mentor, at least in my head, the late John Wooden. Wooden is known to be one of the greatest leaders and motivators of our time. He led the UCLA Bruins men's basketball team to 10 national championships in 12 years, a feat that is likely never to be repeated. Wooden's philosophies on leadership and success were straightforward and no nonsense. Yet, in his approach, he managed to focus on the person, not the basketball player. The person. So winning became a byproduct of his ability to build foundations through love, kind of like my grandmother used to do as well. If Jerry West, Bill Walton, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were sitting in our audience today, they would probably tell you that the love of Coach Wooden, the love of John Wooden, not the scholarship, the sophisticated plays, or the championships, made it possible for them to reach their full life potential and be part of history. Wooden said, "I believe one of the big lessons of sports for dedicated individuals and teams is that it shows us how hard work, and I mean hard work, does pay dividends. The dividend is not necessarily in outscoring an opponent. The guaranteed dividend is the complete peace of mind gained in knowing you did everything within your power, physically, mentally, and emotionally, to bring forth your full potential." I see the same satisfaction occurring in every area of our lives when we strive mightily to do our best, whether it's working in a business or community or raising a family. The great satisfaction comes from trying to do your best. It's the guaranteed dividend. Now, imagine the dividends we can guarantee as we journey forward in our community. Yes, sometimes the work is frustrating and hard. More frustrating than hard, but definitely both. So I constantly remind myself of why I've chosen to go into the office at City Hall instead of playing golf or being at home on my sofa. When that happens, two things take place. First, I'm reminded of a quote from John F. Kennedy as he was challenging our country to do the impossible, to put a man on the moon. Kennedy said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they're easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win and the others too." I see Journey Forward as a moonshot, something that seems impossible, but it also challenges us. Second, I remind myself why I do what I do, and that it comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24, that speaks to why we choose to compete for things like trophies and riches. The scripture reads, "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that ye may obtain. And every man striveth for mastery, is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible, in pursuit of an incorruptible crown in service." I encourage you to join me on this journey of service, to continue to expand your reach into neighborhoods and create opportunities to connect with your neighbors. As I close, I want you to remember that the journey forward is about more than just government funding, the work of a board of directors or programs. Journey forward is about you and how much your grace and your mercy extends to others. Remember, all you can take with you is that which you've given away. Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to share with you this morning, and I hope my words were helpful. Thank you.